I want to go to Professor Kobi Michael now, a senior research fellow at the INSS and Miskav Institute, as well as the former Deputy Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs. Dr. Michael, thank you for joining us during this breaking news edition of I24 News.
Thank you for having me. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Kobi. It is an anxious time right here in Israel as we're watching these scenes unfold live in Gaza. The Red Cross on their way to pick up those 4 female IDF soldiers. And so today, the second batch of hostages to be released during phase 1 of this ceasefire. Now, the price that Israel has to pay to get these 4 young women home, it's much higher. Because on Sunday, during the first release with the 3 Israeli civilians, we saw about 90 prisoners released. But today, it is expected that we're going to see a much larger number of Palestinian prisoners released for these female soldiers, specifically convicted terrorists serving life sentences. And so this is the dilemma that Israel is facing just to get their hostages and their civilians home.
This is indeed a higher price, but it is not the highest price that Israel will pay. I think that the highest price that Israel will pay will be the remaining of Hamas as a sovereign power in the Gaza Strip and the ramifications of Hamas remaining as a sovereign power in the Gaza Strip with regard to the West Bank and with regard to Iran and to the other Iranian spoilers and the entire resistance axis here in the region. I think that this is a higher price than the price of releasing the convicted murderers of Hamas and Fatah. Although, as you rightly say, this is a very high price, and the idea that they will come back to the West Bank or to the Gaza Strip, or at least part of them, and will be the next generation or the next, I would say, leadership of Hamas is something which is very concerning as well. So I think that we are in a very complicated, delicate situation. And unfortunately, I see no option but to continue the war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip, or to find a way that Hamas will not remain the sovereign power there.
Kobi, you talk about these Palestinian prisoners being released and possibly joining these different terror groups, and this is something that the U.S. intelligence actually just released. New reports that over the course of this war, Hamas has already recruited some 10 to 15,000 new fighters. This is almost on par with the number of fighters that Israel claims that they have killed during this war inside Gaza. However, it should also be said that just because there are these new fighters, they likely don't have the same capabilities as the high-level senior fighters and terrorists that Israel has killed in Gaza so far.
Yes, you are right. They succeeded in recruiting these youngsters, actually boys in the ages of 13 to 18, something like that. They are not equipped, and they are not trained, and they are not qualified as ordinary militants of Hamas that we used to know before. And I really suspect that, I really doubt that Hamas will be able to train them correctly. But I think that this is another indication or signal to the capacities of Hamas in the Gaza Strip that yield, among others, from their full control over the supply of the humanitarian aid. Another mistake that Israel did along the war, unfortunately. And I think that this is another indication, and what we see now, all the Palestinian mob in the streets, is another indication to the very problematical try to distinguish between Hamas and the citizens of Gaza, or the people of Gaza. Hamas is so deeply embedded in the civilian society and so deeply supported by the civilian society that I really doubt if we can really distinguish between the people of Gaza, the citizens, and Hamas. I think that you pointed towards the most significant problem that we are going to tackle. I don't see Hamas gives up on its strategic asset, which is the actual control over the Gaza Strip. We have to understand that the end state of Hamas is to gain control over the entire Palestinian system, which means the Palestinian Authority and the PLO. They don't see themselves as partners of Fatah, they see themselves as a replacement for Fatah. And they understand that without controlling effectively the Gaza Strip, they will not be able to realize their end state. And this is the reason that I don't think I would be very surprised if they will enable any other entity to rule effectively the Gaza Strip. They might do a sort of a facade that they will enable the Palestinian Authority or somebody else to run the civilian issues, but they will not dismantle themselves from their weapons and from their military capacities. On the contrary, they will reconstitute themselves and they will play the model of Hezbollah that we used to know in Lebanon. And this is exactly the reality that Israel cannot tolerate. And this is one of the major reasons that I see to the resumption of the war against Hamas in this stage or another. And I think that it will be sooner than later. And I really hope that I'm wrong in my assessment.